SG is known as one of the best sequential gear shifter producers with great value products for the money, and now have released full pedal kit with 100 kg load cell based brake pedal with spring resistance, magnetic sensors for the clutch and the throttle, aluminum base plate, ball bearings on the pivot points and the piston, aluminum pedal cores, and all that for €390, which in my opinion is very competitive price in that mid-range class, but let's check if those can be the right choice for some of you. Starting with the disclaimer first, SG have sent those here for test, feedback and review without any conditions, and my goal is as always to make objective video about those and help you understand the value of the product. That being said, from build quality point of view, in that price range, those are easily the best I had in my hands here. Huge face plates, which I personally like a lot, particularly on the brake pedal, thick aluminum body core for each of those, self-lubricated ball bearings on the pistons, same for the bottom pivot points, and thick aluminum base plate. I have to admit that we don't usually see those materials and quality in that price range. However, in terms of physical settings, there are some limitations. For example, there is no pedal angle adjustment, and also I can move each pedal to the side and find the distance I need between, but I would love to see more holes for the other directions so I can create better position for the heel and toe driving style. However, here is what we can adjust quite easily. For the clutch and the throttle we have spring kit, which can change just unscrewing two nuts with bare hands. Also, we can add some preload, but that will change the travel distance. One thing to keep in mind is changing the travel for those two pedals will need recalibration of the magnetic sensors through the DView program. In my opinion, for my personal taste, for those two the stock set is absolutely fine, but that's subjective. There is option anyway for those who want to explore further. One more thing to keep in mind is the clutch is linear in compression and there is no bite point effect. The travel on those is around 5 cm deep on the plates, which is great for control, particularly on the throttle application, and the ball bearing on the pistons gives very smooth feeling. It looks like very precise machining, and after 4 weeks of use remain very silent. The plates can move also up and down to fit our shoe size. Next, moving to the important pedal, which is the brake, as I've said, is on 100 kg load cell painted in black, which is nice touch, and with the original spring require around 65 kg physical force on the face plate. In my opinion, that stiffness is the very sweet spot to not injure your knee. It is also the same ball bearing piston system, which keeps it very smooth in action, and with that spring, the travel of the faceplate is around 3.5 cm. If we want less travel, we can swap the long spring with the short together with the spacer, which will make it at around 2.5 cm travel. And of course, some preload can further adjust that movement. If somebody wants softer feeling, we can change the stiffer spring with the softer. There are no elastomers in the kit, but is it possible to be used as well? It is definitely quite a unique system with those self-lubricated ball bearing pistons, which in my opinion don't give advantage over the normal pedals I've tested before, but at least it's not another copy of hoisting belt. It is different vision and different engineering from SG, and I have to respect that. Moving to my own experience, it took me like one session to find my pace, and in the last few weeks I haven't had any issues. And again, one thing I really appreciate are those huge faceplates. They make the experience very comfortable. The only thing I have to personally play from the stock settings was the brake spring, which I swapped with the short one because I usually use around 2 to 3 centimeters max travel, and definitely wasn't very hard to find my own sweet spot. And again, just through my personal subjective opinion, in actual use they are not better or worse than the VNM or SimNet, just with less physical adjustments but better build quality for about the same price. One disadvantage is the lack of software, but the DView is not difficult tool to use, and once physically set, just need calibration and they are ready to go. I won't say I'm blown away, but for sure happy to see such a good quality for that price. And that being said, one improvement I definitely want to see is more holes on the base plate for heel and toe setup, which won't be hard to be done. Other than that, for €390 this kit is very competitive and can equally suggest it side by side with the SimNet and the VNM as top value for the money. Those three have some advantages and disadvantages to each other, but I'm so happy to see another competitor in that mid-range class. That first attempt from SG is not bad at all, and this is great value for the money and quality product. So let's turn some laps with those, and happy racing everyone.